On this week's Hot List, Summit Dreams, the G20 gathering of global powers in Bali just about here. Will the agenda get past the war in Ukraine? Resign to run. Should cabinet members be forced to step down if they run for the country's top jobs? And hero worship. 5 new national heroes are named, why they and others deserve the honor. Hello and welcome. This is Hot Indonesia. I'm Dalton Tanonaka in Jakarta. Let's get to it. My co-hosts, Billy Lukito is CEO of the Mobiliari Group from her home in Jakarta, and Linda Ibrahim is a writer and business consultant based in Jakarta. Hot topic number 1, Summit Dreams. The group of 20 annually gets together as the world's major economic powers. Bali will host this year's G20 summit in just a few days. But instead of gas prices, inflation, and food costs, the elephant in the meeting room will certainly top the agenda. Russia's invasion of Ukraine has had a global impact, and leaders must address this face to face. You know, they have to. Now, as G20 president, Indonesia has a chance to play peacemaker or mediator, or at least get people talking. What to do, Linda?
Interesting, right? I think it's a bit hard at this point. I mean, it's been so long, and it's kind of hard to push certain agenda at this point already. I think Putin feels emboldened because he feels now he's getting some support, and Ukraine side as well. You know, so it's a 2-day meeting. I don't really expect anything spectacular or resolving will happen, and maybe this is just me being cynical or pessimistic, but I'd like to think of it as me being realistic. You know, it will have to be a bigger stake at hand for both countries, you know, instead of just like a group of people gathering and say, look, you gotta, you know, play nice and talk to each other. So we will need to be talking about either sanctions or the consequences, direct consequences to Russia, for Russia to be taking this meeting seriously and producing some sort of favorable result for Ukraine.
You know, of course, no one wants war, right? There are people dying.
Yeah.
You know, after a prolonged fight, I think now it becomes about saving face and how to get out. I don't think anybody wants a longer conflict. So, Millie, how can President Joko possibly help if he can do anything at all?
This G20 summit is happening in a very difficult situation because the world is very fragmented now, yeah. and we are all facing the same situation in the background: the Ukraine war, inflation, soaring energy prices, tension in Taiwan, Korean Peninsula, you name it. There are tensions everywhere. So this G20 summit, yes, very difficult, but at least now Indonesia and in Bali, we provide a platform in which world leaders can actually be in the same room and find solutions. So blessing in disguise in a way, but I don't think Ukraine will be the only one highlighted, because Ukraine is, yes, one of the background, but there are other backgrounds in this case, and President Jokowi will have to be a moderator, a peacemaker, but at the same time making sure that all is properly executed for this year and for the next.
Yeah, you're right, Millie. G20 was created as an economic forum. I mean, it's not the United Nations where it solves all political, economic, whatever issues. So, Linda, can other major issues really be addressed without solving Ukraine?
I think maybe there are ways to get around that. I mean, there are still some bilateral relationships that, you know, have very little to do about what's going on between Russia and Ukraine. And I think that will get solved. I mean, a lot of countries come in these meetings because they feel they have an agenda to address, and now they have their interests to serve. And yes, it's very important what's going on in Russia and Ukraine right now, but I do believe that on bilateral and even multilateral levels, there are things that still can be discussed and resolved, decided upon, without having anything to do with what's going on in Russia and Ukraine. I might be naive in saying it, but I think there are.
These kind of events, which I've covered in the past before, the communiques, the final declaration, often written before they even arrive. So I would love to see a surprise. I would love to see leaders say, hey, let's meet. Let's get together, unscripted, unscheduled, and some kind of spontaneous interaction. But, let's see. Now, this was supposed to be Indonesia's moment in the sun, yeah, to highlight recovery efforts, to promote Bali, and so on and so forth. So, Millie, do you think we have any chance at being remembered as the host with all that's going on here?
Oh, for sure. Because again, this G20, I think, is one of the most difficult to create, to fathom, and to manage, precisely because again, everyone is fragmented. The world is in such a situation that the timing of G20 is actually ideal, because this is the place, a platform where everybody can actually meet, like what you suggested, Dalton. They can meet and they can try to find solution. So this will be
and the first post-pandemic gathering, they can meet in person. Yeah, the first time they can meet in person since COVID.
Yes. So this will be an event to remember for a long, long time ahead, for sure.
Well, for results, yeah, I hope. But, the backdrop of Bali, maybe they all wearing batik shirts like they used to do at APEC. I mean, we hope that Bali and Indonesia get some mileage out of this, right, Mil?
Actually,
for sure.
Go ahead.
Yes, for sure. For sure, Bali will have more visitors, and GDP of Bali itself will definitely increase. I actually have the data. So the G20, it's costing our government almost, I don't know, 600 billion, I think. But the return, not only this year, but then we will feel it for at least the next 5 years.
Okay, let us hope so.
If I add, actually, technically, what they wore during the APEC, during SBY time, wasn't batik. It was a very lovely heritage and woven from Bali that 3 years ago was picked up by Christian Dior to make an entire collection.
All right, our fashion expert, Linda Ibrahim. But no,
Linda,
I was going back to the early 90s when Iwan Tirta designed the first the APEC shirts. You remember that?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Hot Indo will continue shortly with Resign to Run. Should these men and others have to leave the cabinet to run for office?
Saya ingin mengumumkan kerjasama dengan The Indonesia Channel. Saya mendorong semua entitas untuk bergabung dalam upaya ini dengan mempromosikan produk dan layanan mereka di platform digital yang unik ini.
I love Indonesia. I love the food. Yummy. Wow. I'm gonna hunt for ingredients. Now I'm ready to cook. Let's go to the kitchen. It's done. Let's meet to eat.
Foodiepedia on the Indonesia Channel.
Hi, I'm Rory He. You're watching the Indonesia Channel, the home of good sport.
I'm Trần Minh Ngân of VCCN Net Việt in Hanoi.
I'm Thairat Thomya of Thailand's Thairat TV in Bangkok.
I'm Monica Sambodet from the National Television of Cambodia in Phnom Penh.
I'm Raymond Go of Malaysia's TV3 in Kuala Lumpur.
I'm Glenda Chong of Singapore's Channel News Asia.
I'm Raisa Chantami of the Indonesia Channel at the ASEAN Secretariat in Jakarta.
This is your weekly look into the dynamic Southeast Asia region.
ASEAN Today on the Indonesia Channel.
The Best of Bali takes viewers on a special guided tour to the treasures of the island of the gods.
The romantic dinner is beautiful.
The Best of Bali, only on the Indonesia Channel.
You are watching Hot Indonesia with Millie, Linda, and me. Here's hot topic number 2, Resign to Run. Election law says high-level government leaders must step down to run for political office. But a recent constitutional court ruling said it's okay to stay on the job, paving the way for Cabinet Minister Prabowo Subianto and others to run in 2024. And the president is okay with that. The 2017 law, ladies, as you know, had been put in place to prevent conflict of interest and campaign corruption. Not saying that any of the potential cabinet candidates would abuse the ruling, but Millie, the law made sense.
Most of the chair of coalition political party now serves as cabinet members. They are ministers. So why should they resign if they want to pursue political ambition? The most
No,
important
wait, you said, I said the law makes sense, and meaning the 2017 law makes sense, they had to resign. You're saying they shouldn't have to.
They shouldn't. Yeah, they shouldn't have to. They shouldn't have to. Why? As long as there is a clear separation on their duty vis-a-vis their political ambition. Because most of the chair of our political party are ministers in current cabinet. Why should they resign? Yeah, again, as long as there is a clear separation between their duty and political ambition, it should be fine.
Well, but you know, the president, I'm sure, doesn't want to lose his good people, which is why he agreed with the constitutional court ruling.
Yes.
You know, the defense minister, tourism minister, and so on. But logically, how can a person give 100% to their portfolios if they're concerned or thinking about winning votes, Millie?
No, logically, we see them now as having a current experience in governance, in government, in governing. I think that should be good for the people. Some chair of political parties, they serve, let's say, in the economic sector, some also in trade sector. I think this bodes well so that they have personal experience in the portfolio itself. I think it's good.
Okay. To be fair, this is not a unique situation. In other countries, you have governors in office running for president and other scenarios, but the campaign laws are tighter and enforced in those countries. For example, to use the temptation to use public money for campaigning would be big here. And that's one of the reasons they enacted the 2017 law. Linda, it's a big temptation.
not just about the money, but it's also the misuse of power. The power relation in Indonesia is never good, and is always tilted, towards the elite so much that what's going to happen if they don't leave their functional posts at the moment, they can just easily use the minions working for them in the ministries to run errands that have something to do with their political campaigns, and those people would not dare to say no. I worked for government before, reporting to someone who was reporting to the president at the time, a cabinet minister. I know the inner working of Indonesian ministries, and it was enough for me to know that this would just be horrible. I can't believe it that Jokowi actually say yes. I mean, and to say yes because he's afraid of losing good people running the ministries only shows that we really don't have that many good people to begin with. You know what I mean? Which is really bad. Oh Lord.
But actually the chairs of political parties, they have resources, Linda. So whether they sit in the cabinet or not, they have resources in terms of funding, in terms of people working for them, and in terms of power. In Indonesia, somehow they are perceived as people with power in any case. What is probably a bit dicey is because they serve in the current cabinet. Mostly, we know that they are in coalition with the current president and with the current policies. They cannot betray in that sense. They cannot be opposition in that sense.
Yeah, so that shortchanges their followers as well. On the political side, if they're running for president or vice president, they cannot say, "Hey, I will change this. I will change," because it looks like then they're traitors and they would administer. So it works both ways, right, Linda?
No, here's the thing. Here's the difference between actually having, like that function, long-term function, and running for campaign. Running for campaign has a short time limit. There's a pressure that I have to achieve this whole number by this time. Where running for a political party like Erlangga Hartarto has been doing, that's a long-term job. So yeah, I see why he could manage the timing. But it's not the same as running for campaign. Running for campaign, very short time. You run for sprint, not marathon. And to do that while you still have functional jobs, I'm sorry. I mean, there's only 24 hours in one day, and there's only one human being with one brain, two hands, 2 feet. They will definitely sway towards the one with the shorter time limit. That will be their priority and not their jobs. So
Linda, what will you be looking for? What will you be looking for in the coming year with these ministers who are running for a higher office?
Well, then I expect anything that have anything to do with their ministries will not be really taken care of. There will not be going to be any big policy in the last year, and nobody's going to be doing any job the last 6 months, So yeah, it may be very cynical, but that's what's going to happen.
But wouldn't you think they'd want to make a big splash in the final year before the election to have something to run on?
You would think, but would they?
But
yeah, I mean, you would think they would want to do that, but can they? If you like, for example, okay, I don't want to go to jail, right?
And we don't want you to go to jail, but
right. But let's just say that I mean, you walk around streets of Indonesia right now, you're gonna see all of these billboards popping up, of like certain figures. How many percentage of those people have anything to do with their functional ministerial job than their political party? And that's even like a long-term plan, and you're talking about these guys gonna be running for presidents. Imagine the effort, the timing, and the things, they do on even on like, a not professional level, whenever they go to like social parties. I know what these guys do, what these guys talk about. They only talk about their ambitions. They should just let go, have the, we call it in Indonesian, pejabat pengganti, the deputy be in charge for the last 6 months or 1 year, so at least there's a clear separation. Yes, there's not going to be any fantastic policy coming out of these ministries, but at least we will not be duped about into thinking that they would still be performing their duties.
Yeah,
You know.
the law was put in place in 2017 for a very good reason. But again, the difference between here and other countries is that campaign laws are enforced in other countries. Here, it doesn't seem to be, as past history shows. Okay, moving on. More Hot Indo is ahead with hero worship. Why these national figures deserve presidential honors.
Produk lokal memang handal, kreasi lokal memang spesial. Ayo beli buatan negeri, bangga sekali produk sendiri. Dari busana sampai kria, kuliner juga buatan kita. Ayo beli kreatif lokal, marilah beli produk kreatif lokal. Pejuang negeri, beli kreatif lokal, banggalah beli produk kreatif lokal.
The Mr. Moonlight Show is back in the Mo Bar at the Mandarin Oriental, Jakarta. Come join the sexy fun and enjoy special drinks at the best entertainment in town. 5-star music, 5-star fun. Sponsored by Tatler Indonesia, the Indonesia Channel, Tamrin 9, and Voyage Island Gin. Wednesday, November 16th from 7 p.m. with no entrance fee. Call the hotel for reservations.
I'm Caitlin Turner, and welcome to Yoga Bliss. Exhale, reaching down to triangle pose. Roll your knee out and up to the sky, breathing here.
Yoga Bliss, only on the Indonesia Channel. This is the Indonesia Channel.
You are watching iPop Playlist.
iPop on the Indonesia Channel.
You're watching Hot Indonesia from Jakarta. Hot topic number 3, hero worship. The annual tradition of honoring national heroes continued this week with 5 more added to the list. They range from the personal doctor of Founding Father Sukarno, H.R. Suharto, to freedom fighter H. Salahuddin bin Talabudin, who resisted Dutch invaders in North Maluku. They joined the list of 200 honorees in all, including the country's first vice president, Muhammad Hatta, and journalist Adam Malik. Now, Founding Father Sukarno was also reaffirmed as a national hero in ceremonies on Monday. Millie, I like this tradition. Who are your favorite heroes?
No, I also like this tradition and I honor it. But I wish that the government would choose people in this lifetime, in this era, people who are still living and people who I know, rather than people who have passed 50 years ago.
Well, Millie, no. One of the conditions for being named a national hero, they have to have been dead.
No,
I mean, posthumous.
no. Yes, I know. But yeah, for me, maybe the president can have like a presidential honor list, where he gives sort of like an honorable star to their achievements. But I would imagine someone or people who are still living, so I can mentor them, and I can get to know them and learn from them.
Or let them mentor you. You mean not you mentor them?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
To me, as the Indonesian subject.
Yeah.
That would be more meaningful.
I got it. I noticed, I went through the list this week, and there are only 15 women who have been named national heroes. Linda, there are surely more women who need to be nominated.
Technically, yes. But I think what happened was because the focus is a lot on what happened during the independence movement and the way that the society at that time, women were more, I would say, domesticated than they were, so maybe there were not as many women as men, being involved. And also, I think even though some of them were involved, they're probably not being registered, no one was taking enough interest to write about them. So there's no like a history about them being written and used as a point of reference. I think that's what happened, which is very unfair,
Yeah, anyone can be nominated, but they can be done provincially or regency nominations, and maybe committees should be formed to do more research on that. One last thing real quickly, guys. Abdurrahman Wahid Gusdur, our fourth president, why isn't he on the list?
I have no idea. Ibu Millie might know more.
He was a short-term president, but he did a lot of good things for this country, right, Mil?
Yes. Exactly. He was the one who abolished the Department of Information and calling the Ministry of Information the hands of the ghost. I mean, they are really there to just give censorship, unnecessary blockage, censorship to media. So to me, as a media person, President Gusdur is always my hero.
And also he ended discrimination, a lot of the discriminatory laws toward the Chinese Indonesians.
Discrimination against the Chinese. Yes. So to me, he's my hero.
Yeah, I think he should be on the list.
Definitely. And again, I would suggest for the president to choose more living heroes rather than the posthumous.
Okay, maybe that's a different kind of list, but going forward, we'll see more women on the list, I'm sure. It is feedback time now, and Rotma said this on the request for Indonesian artifacts abroad, including the Java Man in Holland, to be returned. Thank you for keeping it well so far, but please return it now. And RV had this to say on the TIC YouTube page. Great show as always. As an expat in Jakarta, this is a great way for me to stay up to date with what's happening. That is our mission, RV. Here's how to contact us with your feedback. Email at hotindo@theindonesiachannel.com or comment through our Hot Indonesia or Indonesia Channel Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube pages, all those social media platforms. Final words, Millie.
Now is the season for petai. In Indonesia, we call it the stinky beans. And petai or stinky beans, not only great to eat, but they're also very healthy, especially for your kidney and as a laxative, actually. So for those who wants to lose weight, eat more petai. And let me tell you, in addition to durian, petai or stinky bean is also my middle name.
Final words, Linda.
I spent almost a week in Bali last week, and it was interesting, bittersweet. I'd never been to Bali since the pandemic, and I spent time both in Seminyak and in Ubud. And walk along, the Basangkase, Seminyak, and then the Ubud Golden Triangle. And I tried to visit every single old favorites of mine. And some survived, but many didn't. But even the ones who survived, told me all these harrowing stories of how they managed to survive so far, you know, and they were just too glad to see me. One thing though, one of them actually hugged me and say, "I'm so glad I saw you too," because some of my customers in Jakarta didn't make it because of Corona, you know. And then so, you know, and we hugged and we started crying. You know, I was so happy that her stall survived and she was happy that I was alive.
And my final words, elections in the U.S. were held this week, and the political fighting has been ugly. I've never seen such terrible actions and words in my lifetime. As an American, I am sad and embarrassed, but I'm also hopeful that good people will rise up and lead my birth country back to the place that the world looks up to. We must. And that is Hot Indonesia for this week. For Millie Lukito and Linda Ibrahim, I'm Dalton Taranaka. Thank you for watching. Please join us again next time.